A couple years ago, I reviewed Natsume's Wild Guns for the Super Nintendo, and I'm very happy to announce it is now available for just 800 points on the Wii Virtual Console. It's a nearly flawless action game in a genre almost all its own. In fact, there are so few games like Wild Guns, I'm not even sure what genre to call it. Stationary or fixed third-person shooter? Yeah, whatever. The more irritating thing is, there are so few games like this, yet this setup would be perfect on the Wii. Enter Zombie Panic in Wonderland, available for 1,000 points on WiiWare. Finally, this is what I'm talking about. That same Wild Guns-like gameplay, but utilizing the nunchuck and Wiimote. It's perfect! God, why haven't more people done this? But there's more to a great game than just intuitive controls, so let's dive in a little deeper. I don't know if zombies are as cool as cowboys and robots, but Zombie Panic in Wonderland still has an interesting premise. But I have to say, the story is another example of ridiculous but not funny or engaging in any way. There's this recurring thing with gnomes and dwarves, and it's weird. But I guess it's keeping with the anime aesthetic of the game, so maybe it's my fault for being surprised. Not counting the bosses, there are 6 levels, and they are huge! Or, I guess, long makes more sense. Each level has an impressive depth to it, with lots of shit to blow up. They are just devastated by the time you're finished with them. However, according to the game, you're actually cleaning up the levels, which is a pretty funny touch. And most importantly, those controls are just as amazing as you'd imagine. This type of action game can work on the Wii, and here is the proof. But I'm not saying this is a perfect game. There's a lot of room for improvement here. Though the controls are great, it's sometimes hard to tell if you're hitting anything. The levels are deep and destructible, but your crosshair is pretty small, which makes it tough to hit faraway enemies. Sometimes it's hard to tell if you're hitting an enemy or a piece of the background. Making it even more difficult is there's little indication you're actually hitting your target. The only reaction is the enemy or object blinks, which is again sometimes difficult to spot. Audio cues help here, but not much. Also, the numbers are really small. To clear a level, you need to get 100% before the timer hits 0, but when things get chaotic, hell if I got time to squint at those tiny-ass numbers. Maybe this is why Cabal and Blood Brothers used a progress bar. The levels are also really wide. This ends up being a problem when an enemy off-screen blindsides you with a projectile you didn't or couldn't see coming. Expect more than a few cheap deaths. Oh, and this always bugs me when I see this in a game. The first boss is downright cheap, with attacks that are unavoidable unless you jump out of the way, and even then, he's still pretty tough. But don't expect the same challenge from the second and final bosses, they're stupid easy. The levels get progressively harder, like they should, but the bosses don't. Again, it's not a perfect game, but I don't mean to sound too harsh. These are all issues that could be easily addressed in a sequel. Alright, down to brass tacks. Should you download Zombie Panic in Wonderland? Well, that really depends on where you want to put your money. There is a lot of room for improvement here, but I would still absolutely love to see a sequel. There's also tons of potential in this fixed third-person shooter genre. I would love to see more games like this on the Wii. And if you agree, then ideally, a purchase of Zombie Panic in Wonderland will be one way of letting the powers that be know this. But then again, Wild Guns is 200 points cheaper and better in like every way. Honestly, Zombie Panic in Wonderland is pretty cool, but nothing to write home about. I only downloaded it because of its similarities to Wild Guns, which is unquestionably superior. So it comes to this. Support an underused genre brimming with potential by buying independents, or support an underused genre brimming with potential by buying a reliable classic. That's up to you. Or you can look at it this way. Together they only cost 1,800 Wii points. That's one card with 200 points left over to, I don't know, buy Proto Man and Mega Man 9 or Bass and Mega Man 10. The take-home message here is you should buy at least one of these games. I'll see you on the next.
Get Quickie!